Hey guys, let's get more news from Steelers, but first don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. Falcons All-Pro in agreement with Pittsburgh Steelers on cheap deal. Former Atlanta Falcons fan favorite Cordarrelle Patterson has reached an agreement with the Pittsburgh Steelers, according to Ian Rappaport of NFL Network. Falcons All-Pro and Pro Bowl returner Cordarrelle Patterson, one of the biggest name free agents still available, is expected to sign with the Steelers, sources say. He gets a 2-year, $6 million deal. As the NFL has altered its kickoff rules, Patterson lands in Pitt. Patterson reunites with former Falcons head coach Arthur Smith and will play for a Steelers team that has found success throughout much of the past 2 decades. The 33-year-old brings value as a running back, wide receiver, and kick returner. He's a 4-time Pro Bowl selection and 4-time All-Pro in large part due to his kick returning ability, something that should help the Steelers. With the new kickoff rule, Patterson brings all of his value back that was lost when he was on the Atlanta Falcons. The new kickoff rule should lead to more excitement, especially from players like Patterson. While he would have found a team in free agency, it doesn't seem like a coincidence that he got a deal done with the Pittsburgh Steelers the same day this rule was passed. Patterson had 1,017 kick return yards in the 2020 season and has multiple years with over 500-plus yards. That was drastically down during his time with the Falcons, failing to post more than 450 yards in any of his 3 seasons with the team. Factor in his ability to make plays as a receiver and running back, and landing him was a smart idea from the Steelers, especially for the price. Patterson's 2021 season with the Falcons was the best of his career, finishing with 618 rushing yards and 548 receiving yards. With Kirk Cousins and a new play caller, the Atlanta Falcons should have thought about keeping Patterson. Factor in the cheap deal and keeping him around makes even more sense. However, he wasn't used correctly during his final year with the Falcons, receiving just 12 targets and 50 rushing attempts. Scott Bair of the Falcons was asked why they don't use all their talent, specifically Patterson. Cordarrelle Patterson has just 45 offensive touches this year. That comes after he had 165 in 2022 and 205 in 2021. Patterson has been hurt this season, but his usage is definitely lower as the ball has spread around to more skilled players. There's no doubt that he's a tough runner and someone who can create big plays in space. He also has breakneck speed but hasn't been as involved in years past. That's certainly due to Bijan Robinson's presence and his ability to do some similar things with the ball in his hands. We've had lots of usage discussions this year, typically referring to Drake London, Kyle Pitts, or Robinson himself. Patterson's workload has been brought up as well, though it's hard to imagine him getting a massive uptick down the stretch. It will be interesting to see what happens with him in the future, considering this is a contract year for the 11th-year veteran. With him heading to the Pittsburgh Steelers with Smith, it'd make sense if they use him more than they did with the Falcons. It's a no-brainer for the price and something the Falcons should have been interested in if Patterson wanted to return. Steelers add exciting playmaker. Omar Khan is just toying with us now. At least us here at Steel City Insider. Less than an hour after the taping of SCI's podcast number 102 with special guest Trey Essex, who asked me if I knew of any great kick returners in the NFL to take advantage of the NFL's new kickoff rule, Khan signed Cordarrelle Patterson to a 2-year, $6 million contract. I didn't mention Patterson, but he's really the only great KR in today's game. At least once was. Can he be that again guy at 33? Well, Arthur Smith probably thinks so. The Steelers' new offensive coordinator was Patterson's head coach for the last 3 seasons in Atlanta. A 4-time Pro Bowler, Patterson didn't make the All-Star team in those latter seasons, but he was truly a unique threat as a return specialist, running back, and wide receiver. The Steelers got a wee taste of Patterson's versatile skills when the player who was drafted as a wide receiver started in the backfield against them in a 2022 game. he gained 60 yards on 11 carries, 5.5 YPC. The co-starter in Smith's backfield was Tyler Allgeier, who went on to rush for over 1,000 yards that season. The Falcons were the third-best rushing team in the NFL in 2022, but they wanted more, so they drafted RB Bijan Robinson with the 8th overall pick in 2023. The rookie's presence, along with Allgeier's, precipitated a fall-off in work for Patterson by 67%, if we are to calculate off Patterson's paltry 50 carries last season. Yes, he was 32. But, apparently, Smith sees something left in Patterson. Smith was no doubt consulted on the move by Khan, who patiently waited for our podcast to end before announcing the Steelers had signed him. Of course, the timing of the new kickoff rules was more likely the reason for Khan to move into action. In Patterson, the Steelers get a 6'2", 220-pounder with a career kickoff return average of 29.3. In his last 3 seasons with Smith, Patterson averaged 25.6. The Steelers, the last 3 seasons averaged 22.4 per kickoff return. Patterson's numbers, of course, were accomplished against the now archaic rules by which most kicks, particularly with Patterson aligned as a returner, sailed out of the end zone. Now, the rules have been altered to penalize kickers for sailing the ball out of the end zone. And potential tacklers have less of a running start and less time to pursue return men. Obviously, Patterson has the size and speed even at 33 to take advantage of these new rules. And he'll also provide a swing player at both RB and WR, positions in need of depth. No, he may not be the Cordarrelle Patterson we remember as the Vikings' first-round pick out of Tennessee in 2013, but he, I have to believe, remains a viable threat. Smith knows that. He just had to wait until Khan was done toying with us to celebrate. Brown star Deshaun Watson calls out rivals' QB move. Deshaun Watson was not a big fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers trading for former first-round pick Justin Fields. The Chicago Bears shipped Fields to the Steelers, receiving a 2025 conditional 6th-round pick that can become a 4th-rounder. If Fields hopes to start, he'll have to beat out 9-time Pro Bowler Russell Wilson. After being cut by the Denver Broncos, he signed with the Steelers this offseason. Wilson is the likely starter in Pittsburgh, and Watson believes there are better situations for Fields out there. For me, and I'm very on the conservative side, so I think Russell's gonna be better. I think they should have a competition, best man wins, at the end of the day, but to each his own, Watson said on the most episode of his QB Unplugged podcast. That's their own organization, they said Russell's the guy. I think if he's the guy, I think Justin could have went to a better situation so he can play. Watson has discussed the Steelers' quarterback situation before, praising Pittsburgh for signing Wilson. Pittsburgh is a good organization. It's crazy for me to say it because I'm a Brown. I'm just keeping it 100, Watson said. At the end of the day, you have to give respect where respect is due. Tomlin is going to have them boys right. It made sense for Wilson to go there. Fields seems to have a different take on the situation. The Bears worked with him on finding his next team as they weighed a half-dozen offers. They have a starter with Russ, but there was more of an open competition, it felt like from my perspective, where there were other opportunities where there were some quarterbacks that were either veteran guys or young guys that had already been paid, so it would have been a tougher situation for him to get on the field, Bears GM Ryan Poles said on March 25. I said that at the Combine, I wanted to do right by him. We did that. We had a really good conversation. There's still a long way to go before week 1, but Steelers coach Mike Tomlin said Wilson is in pole position to be the starter. We're not resistant to competition, but as I've mentioned several times of late, I just think it's appropriate to establish positioning. And the term that I've used is Russell has pole position, Tomlin said. And why do I use that term? Because during this time where we are not formally working, I just think it's beneficial. His experience in the National Football League, his process has been honed and perfected. Watson is working his way back from a season-ending shoulder injury. The Browns are confident their $230 million passer will be ready to roll for the start of the season. He's doing everything he's supposed to, so he's right on track, Stefanski said, per Mary Kay Cabot of Cleveland.com. He's right where he is supposed to be, so I'd anticipate that he's throwing this spring with us. Through 2 seasons with the Browns, Watson has appeared in just 12 games. He passed for 1,115 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions last season. Watson missed time on 2 separate occasions with shoulder injuries. And you fan, what do you think of the Deshaun Watson situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.